I want to make clear from the beginning that the Virtual Paul's Cross Project has always had the goal of recreating an experience. The experience of hearing John Donne preach a sermon on November the 5th, 1622, from 10 to 12 in the morning, from Paul's Cross, a preaching station in the northeast corner of Paul's Churchyard outside St. Paul's Cathedral in London. So the modeling, the 3D modeling that we've done, has been a means to an end and not the end of the project. Because we had the goal of recreating a specific experience that occurred on a particular occasion in this place, our model shows signs of time and age and weather and climate and season. It involves ambient noise, the sound of birds, horses, and dogs, the regularly occurring sound of the cathedral's clock chiming the quarter hours and the hours, and the ambient noise generated by crowds, which we modeled in different sizes from 500 to 5,000 people. Most of the time when we study early modern sermons, we're looking at the text of those sermons, and we're reading them to ourselves. We're reading them in the privacy of our studies, so we really treat them as though they were theological essays. We wanted to get beyond that. We wanted to recover the performative dimension. We wanted to recover these sermons as events that took place in real time and in very specific places. We wanted to find out how well the preacher could be heard, how many people could hear the unamplified human voice in this particular space on this particular occasion. We wanted to know how the sermons were organized as events, how the clergy who preached them got to the preaching station from the cathedral, where they vested, how the challenges that they faced in achieving and maintaining the attention of the crowd over time, and we wanted to explore possibilities of crowd response, how the crowd might have responded to jokes, to asides, to the more emotionally powerful parts of the sermon. So our goal has been to recreate an event, and modeling has been a tool that we've used to achieve that goal. I believe the project has been tremendously successful in addressing the questions with which we started. We have, in fact, been able to recreate the experience of hearing this sermon from different positions in the churchyard and in the presence of different sizes of crowd. We have answered the basic question about audibility. Positively, it turns out that because of the configuration of the space, the crowd, someone positioned anywhere in the crowd in that space, would have been able to hear the preacher clearly, so long as the crowd was quiet and attentive. We have answered basic questions about how the event was organized. We know that there was a procession from the cathedral out to the preaching station. Most important, we have opened up a whole bunch of new questions as a result of repeated listening to the sermon as it unfolds in real time in this space. Questions about how the preacher might have dealt with ambient noise, how he might have dealt with the sound of the church bell. To toll the hour of 11, the bell takes about a minute. That's a long time to interrupt the flow of your presentation, your verbal presentation. What did he do? Was he able to anticipate the bell so that he could conclude a section of the sermon, then have the bell come as a kind of punctuation, and then start again? There's a lot of evidence for that. What was it like to improvise a sermon from notes? And what, in fact, is the nature of the early modern sermon? Is it the text that comes down to us? We so easily assume that. But in fact, we now have to recognize that the texts that come to us are memorial reconstructions done after the fact of the event that unfolded in real time and was improvised, and certainly involved engagement with the crowd, response to the interest and energy of the crowd, and then gets remembered in the privacy of the preacher's study after the fact, and is therefore likely to show signs of memorial reconstruction, reconsiderations, shifting of the organization, what you would like to have said, as well as what you actually said. So we address basic questions, but as we work with this material, larger and much more significant questions begin to emerge, and a new understanding of our subject has begun to emerge. We found that this project has extensive popular appeal, especially because we had the good fortune to be able to create an installation of the project in a technology-rich room at NC State's new Hunt Library. The Teaching and Visualization Lab has 10 projectors that project a seamless 270-degree image, and also 21 speakers that create a kind of immersion sound field. And so when you are in the Hunt Library in this room and you're experiencing a demonstration of the project, you feel surrounded by the project. You are in the middle of the churchyard yourself, and you can move around and hear the sermon from different positions. And there is a powerful sense of really being there. Of course, the project is really on a website, fully on a website, and that too gives a tremendous amount of flexibility, user flexibility. But the installation was covered in our local media, and that story was picked up and republished in newspapers across the United States and in England. We have gotten very, very positive coverage from other digital humanists who on blogs named the project as having a special distinction. The installation has, we have been requested to do demonstrations of the installation from members of our institutional governing body, from school groups, from adult groups, and as a result, we have been featured in the Humanist, the magazine of the National Endowment for the Humanities. We have been reviewed positively in the Spencer Review and other scholarly journals, and so there's been a real ripple effect coming of attention both in the scholarly community and also in the larger community in response to this project. I think it's important to note, as I said at the beginning, that the Virtual Paul's Cross project uses 3D modeling as a means, not an end. And in that regard, the most important thing for me about being involved with this project is what I now know I don't know. So instead, this project, instead of confirming for me what I already know, has in fact opened up for me a very wide range of new questions, very new ways of thinking about the subject that we are trying to understand. When I started, like most folks, I think, in my line of scholarly work, the John Donne's sermon for November the 5th was a text on a page. It is now I now recognize that the text on the page is a memorial reconstruction, that the event that I'm really interested in when I talk about a sermon is the event that it is trying to reconstruct. so that in some sense Dunn is a colleague with us in giving us this text of this sermon. He's a colleague with us in trying to recover the experience that he participated in as preacher, and which also includes the venue and the crowd response and the sounds and of the place. So I've written an article about what we've learned, and it's called "Transforming the Subject of Our Study," and it really says that that we need to read early modern sermons, the text of early modern sermons, not as the sermon, but as part of a very complex subject, something that contributes to our understanding of that event, but not the event itself, not the thing itself. And that has opened up a whole host of new questions. Something I think I alluded to a moment ago, how the preacher responded to the sound, how he accommodated ambient noise, how he dealt with the recurring sound of the bell. Was he aware of the passage of time sufficiently to be able to incorporate the sound of the bells into his rhetorical presentation? But more fully, to think of these sermons as oratorical performances, as rhetorical performances. The question of the tone of different sections. Are there sections, as I believe there are, that are really jokes, that are really efforts to engage the crowd, to engage the crowd's attention, to sustain the crowd's attention through these very, very long events? These are all new questions. And these are questions that that were not high on my agenda when we started, but now are at the center of what I'm trying to do with the project as it matures. And I might also say that we've applied for another grant, and the goal of that grant is to complete the model of the churchyard and the cathedral, including the interior of the cathedral, which we will use to model worship services that were conducted inside the cathedral, drawing on the rites of the Book of Common Prayer, and music, organ music and choral music written by musicians at St. Paul's for performance in St. Paul's. We are going to recreate these and recreate sermons preached inside the cathedral so that we can compare them with this sermon preached outside the cathedral. We're trying to recreate the experience of worship at a particular time in what is arguably the most important liturgical space, worship space in all of the country. So for us at least, the modeling has taken us into radically new directions and raised radically new questions, questions we didn't have before. And that's what's really important about it to me, and really important about what we've been able to achieve. Opening up new vistas, new questions, new vistas of understanding, new ways of grasping what's involved when we talk about preaching in the early modern period.